Hi, you're listening to Engagement Drivers, presented by EveryoneSocial. Each week, we'll share actionable tips, strategies, and success stories that you and your teams can use to steer your brand, social, and employee engagement in the right direction.
Hey everybody, Todd here, Director of Marketing at EveryoneSocial. Going to be doing a solo episode here about a topic that's been kind of on my mind for a while now, especially with employee advocacy programs or people looking to have their employees post on LinkedIn or other social channels on the company behalf. And it's becoming a hot topic now for multiple reasons. One, these networks are just primed and ready for great content consumption. Two, employees, for example, starting to build their personal brands, and this provides them with career opportunities, professional growth, other opportunities like maybe getting on podcast episodes or building a community around their platform. But most of all, it just helps them learn, right, and really become part of these social networks. And the challenge is for companies, they want to utilize employee advocacy program like EveryoneSocial, for example, to help get their content out to the world for multiple reasons, right? There's the marketing side of things where it's just helping drive clicks and social engagement, growing the brand awareness, even driving more quality leads through employee networks. Then you have the sales side of things, same thing. It's helping shorten sales cycles. It's helping create relationships. It's helping drive revenue, saving money on ads. And then you have recruiting an employer brand. I mean, you're driving attention for your brand as a great place to work, highlighting employees, all that good stuff. The challenge is a lot of these programs or companies who are putting a program in place feel that the company content should only be a certain medium, whether that's just links, for example. The other challenge is that they feel it all needs to be kind of content about the company and or brand or company news. Now you think, of course, sure, that makes sense, is that you're doing this program and paying for software and platform to drive attention to your brand. The challenge is it's a careful balance, right? So if you're encouraging employees to create and share content, which we say you definitely should be, regardless if you're using a platform like EveryoneSocial or not, is to remember the content they share should not always be about your company product or services. And that might cause you to raise an eyebrow. I think sometimes our customers or potential prospects that could be customers sometimes raise an eyebrow if we say these things too. But I think it's really about positioning and really understanding why we say that, right? So you might be thinking, well, how does that still benefit our organization then if it's not content that drives clicks back to our website, or if it's not information that's related to our product or service? Well, I'll kind of explain how. And I'm going to use some examples, I think, not only from what I've been testing a bit, but what we're seeing from our customers too, who are really nailing down employee advocacy really well at their company. So I think the important thing to keep in mind is that employees just don't want to spam their networks with just everything about your company, right? They're not here to be a walking billboard for your brand, and they want to have value in the things they share and things that are interesting. So this should be content about encouraging that they share things around employee expertise. So what are they an expert in? Their interests, their personalities, third-party resources, and of course, mixing in content about your brand and news is important. But I think too often people think that it's all about the company content and that's it. And it's kind of a mistake because I think, one, employees engage with that content less, right? They're just like, I don't want to keep sharing everything about my company constantly. Two, it doesn't really always provide value to their networks. Their networks are smarter. They're more in tune with what kind of content they want to consume. So there's a delicate balance there that it just needs to be a mix of things. So here's how to look at it. When your employees are sharing various content types, right, whether that's their expertise, again, interests, personality, those networks that are engaging with that content still see where that employee works, right? So for example, their headline, it could say their company name, or it could say a tagline. For example, mine says Director of Marketing at EveryoneSocial. So when people are engaging my content, they're seeing EveryoneSocial right there, right? Or their tagline. I could have a tagline that says, helping people, do social media at work better. Still kind of explains our industry, might not exactly give you the company name, right? But there's some kind of value that if people started searching that, they're probably going to come across our brand, for example. So, that's one thing to keep in mind is that when you have all this content being engaged, your company name, your brand tagline is still being seen. The other part of it is that people start to connect with your employees more, right? Or they start looking at their profile when they come across their content. So all these followers are seeing, again, where they work, what they do. Maybe you have a banner image that's related to your company. Maybe you have a description that talks about the company. Employees might have some featured work pieces they've done for the company, right? So again, now you have all these people looking at your profile on some consistent basis, becoming aware of the brand. Your company also starts to become trusted because employees are now all creating various types of content that is valuable, interesting, creative, personality driven, right? Human based. And when you start mixing in that company content or the news about your company or new product or services or blog posts from the company, that engagement starts to drive up too. People start to trust that content more. So my question to you is, especially for people who are on the fence about mixing in the content types, is do you not think that there's some kind of impact on your brand, even though the content does not go right to your company website all the time? And I ask this question not to be condescending or rude. It's really just to make you think, well, don't you think this is impacting you in some way? And here's how to better think about it. Imagine now that's just one employee who maybe posts 2 or 3 times a week, right? A couple hundred to a couple thousand views in every post, driving engagement. Extrapolate that over a month, over a year, potentially could reach hundreds of thousands of views just on their own content. We see an average employee has about 1,000 total social connections. That could be across LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, whatever. Imagine that. Now imagine you have 500 of your employees sharing and creating content too. That's an extraordinary reach of 500,000. And then extrapolate that over a month, over a quarter, or over a year. You're now reaching millions of potential people. And the other thing you have to think about, for example, is like LinkedIn. The people that are engaging with your content also have their own networks that you might not be engaged with. So employees will have people they're connected with that their people are connected to that they're not actually following and or having as followers. If their content's being engaged by their networks, those secondary networks start to see the content in feeds. It happens to me all the time. I've discovered numerous people in my LinkedIn feed because of the content that was being engaged with by others. And then I start discovering more and snowball effect happens, right? On top of it, my network is growing. Every week or so, I'm getting new followers. That's extending my reach and potential value too. My point is, you have all these impressions, engagements, people looking at profile views with your brand name being shown in some way. Personally, I've looked up numerous companies through Google or looked at their LinkedIn page, right? Or looked on Twitter, either maybe followed the company, looked at what they did. It starts to introduce the brand to new people. It starts to introduce what the product or service might be that, hey, most people probably aren't ready to buy right now from you, but it might explain a situation that they haven't thought about before. Or they start reading content like, wow, there's some value here. Maybe we should look into this, right? It just really builds more awareness. And the really cool thing about this too is these people start maybe getting hit up on remarketing ads, right? They might start seeing more content in your feed, maybe in their own search, they come across the blog post, and now they're more trusting of it because they're aware of your brand. If they have an issue, they're thinking about your company over anything else. And I think that's the missing piece to this whole kind of idea of employees sharing content to their networks, is people don't think about the indirect results from it too. Of course, you want some direct influence, right? If you're going to drive blog post links, you want people to be clicking back and converting and things like that. And naturally, for example, like our platform, will help with that reporting. But there's this huge topic too of dark social, dark funnel, things that you can't directly always attribute to certain things because it gets lost in translation, like Slack channels, for example. If you're in a Slack community, someone hears about that. Word of mouth marketing, which is exactly what these employee advocacy programs can help facilitate, or these indirect posts that are text, image, GIFs, videos, that don't link directly back to something. Those are still influencing people's decisions about not only your brand, if they want to work for your company, if they want to look into your product, and things like that. So that's one of the important things we love to kind of keep in mind is just mix up your content types in the mediums for employees. And I'll give you a good example from my end too. So I've been posting from Everyone's Social different variations of things, right? Text-based posts, image-based posts. Of course, naturally, we share our blog posts, but also hiring and recruiting and things like that. And I shared a text-based post a couple weeks back, and it did pretty well. Not all of mine do. They fluctuate from a couple hundred to 10,000 plus views. It just depends on the kind of content that I'm hitting them with. And it wasn't even about Everyone's Social. It wasn't about our industry. It was about marketing. And for me, I like to post marketing content because that's the field I'm in. I like to post employee advocacy and social media content because that's the industry I'm in as well. I also like to talk about side hustles and projects I'm working on, my personal interests. And then I also tie in Everyone's Social, whether that's company culture, hiring, the cool things we're doing, that kind of stuff. So this post was completely about marketing career and kind of getting into marketing, kind of some tips I had from my experience. It was under 48 hours, I had closing in on 15,000 views. I had over 200 some people look at my profile, and a handful of new connections and people followed me, really good engagement on the post. That was one post. And again, in my headline, director of marketing, people clicking my profile, seeing my banner image of Everyone's Social design we have, seeing my description, seeing my company. That's one post. And now imagine me having 2 or 3 posts per week, getting anywhere from 500 to 15,000 plus views on a different post. So a couple of things happen here too that I think we also need to keep in mind is that if you want to be successful with social content, especially in an employee advocacy platform, and you want your employees, for example, to really succeed in this, a couple of things have to happen. One, I spend a few minutes each day just engaging with other people's content. So LinkedIn algorithm, of course, doesn't want necessarily you to be posting links all the time because they want to keep people in their platform. So giving them a link to outside the platform, they're not going to show it on the top of the feed as much. But if you're warming up the algorithm a bit and driving conversations and engaging with your networks, you're posting various content. So it's not just links, you're posting text, image, GIFs, videos, all sorts of stuff, providing different value. When you do start to post links, you have a following who is interested in your content, what you have to say. You're warming up the algorithm already. You're giving yourself a better shot that when you do post linked content, it's still going to be seen. But regardless if it's not, when you post this other type of content and take snippets of things from blog content too, you can still drive value there. So we've been encouraging people to think about this too, is that, look, we know you love the clicks coming back from your employees because it drives web traffic. It's easily attributable in, either Everyone's Social or your analytics software, and you can guide value. And we understand that. But this is also super important these days that this is part of the whole dark social thing. It's where your audiences are hanging out. It's what people expect. They want to engage from your employees, but it has to be interesting. So, beyond talking about things that are different from your company content and allowing employees to share things that matter to them, that are interesting to them, is taking things from your company content and creating it in different formats too. And that's another thing we're trying to get across too is that, look, you don't always have to post links. You can post things from your blog posts, right? You could take a snippet of that and create a text version of it. You can create an engaging GIF. You can create an engaging video. You can let your employees create a variation of it, right? So you're still providing value, still providing context, but you're mixing up the content types, which also can drive amazing engagement. So that's what we're really about here is not only testing those theories out, but seeing the results of that happening. And I think the more people and companies and even employees understand that, it kind of awakens this kind of inner thing of saying like, yes, this stuff does work. And too often people jump the gun and they're just like, okay, well, we just put all these company posts in there, all links, all news, and we're not really getting engagement on the post. We're not really getting employees sharing as much as we thought we would. And that's why. And I think, again, what I'd really like to reiterate is that you have to think about how these other types of posts are still going to impact your brand. So I'd like to repeat this again because I feel like it's such an important area of just having employees sharing and creating content on your behalf that it just needs to be said. And it's that, again, the content doesn't always have to be about your company product or services. It should be about your industry, what interests employees, the work culture and hiring, third party industry resources that drive value. And again, I think it's important is that all this kind of content is still influencing those who view employee posts about your brand, culture, and value. They're still going to look at your employees and say, that's interesting, or this provided value, or where do they work? Oh, I need to check them out, or I need to go follow them, or what are they all about? And I think a great example too to kind of guide this here is, you know, I think many of you listening might be familiar with the brand Gong. I mean, they're huge now, right? Great sales tool. We personally don't use them right now. Fast forward or backtrack to 2 years ago or so, their employees were creating and sharing content. And it wasn't just about Gong, it was about their industry, data they've discovered, right? Sales tips and tricks, news about the industry, and also their personal insights. But I slowly started seeing more of them in my feed because my networks were engaging with them. And I was like, wow, this is really interesting content. It's relatable to my industry. I'm going to start following some of these people. And again, I'm like, didn't hear of Gong at the time. I was like, this is interesting. Went to their company page, also found their LinkedIn company page very interesting, followed them there. Checked out their website to learn more about exactly what kind of software, what their tooling is about. Really love what they do as a brand. Thought that was cool. But again, I'm not in the market to buy their software yet or have a need for it necessarily, right? I think it's a great product. I understand the value. And now I follow, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 people from Gong and I engage with their content. I also see other people from Gong that are posting because my network's engaging with them and I see the brand there. Well, I'll tell you, and I don't know who's competition with Gong exactly, but because of those employees' influences, there's a couple of things I do. And even in marketing, like, I kind of understand how these things are working. If you're in marketing too, you probably know all the things you look for to or ignore because, you're used to doing that. Like when you see an ad of something you click, it's a remarketing thing. I've been more receptible to their ads. So I've actually been clicking anytime I've seen like an ad related to like an event or a blog post of theirs or a data report. I've been more receptive when I see them post, and now they're in my feed a lot more because I engage with them so much. And if our sales team and our team decides like, hey, we do want to use some kind of software like this, the only brand I'm thinking about is Gong because they provided so much value in different ways for me and because I saw them constantly in my feed. So I think that's a really great example of what I mean by how this kind of all works together. Because again, they mixed in some of their blog content, sometimes some things about them, but mostly they talked about their industry, personal interests, their learnings, their job position. For example, one of them is in the content marketing side. He talks a lot about content marketing and then how it ties into sales. And that's not necessarily Gong related. There's some tie in, but that content was interesting to me and it made me discover Gong. And from there, now I've been following a bunch of people. So I think, understandably, like we all want some ROI and numbers tied to things. But as marketing changes the way people engage and the channels are expanding, where it makes it a lot harder to always, understand exactly and report back to every single data piece, you have to think about this indirect influence that's happening too. And I think that's important. So we really encourage anybody out there who is looking at employee advocacy programs or even just kind of sharing content on their own or trying to encourage employees to do that is one, you need to trust them. You're hiring people that you trust. Why would you be afraid of them sharing some insights on social media? It's important, obviously, to have a social media policy or disclosures if you need. Again, Everyone Social makes it very easy to do both those things on the fly, but it's really about the content strategy and really helping employees understand what they want to talk about. So, I think allowing them to share their interests, personalities a bit, and as long as you're throwing in some company content, it's going to work. Some of the best customers we have are doing that. They're mixing in great company content, but they're allowing their employees to share things that they value. Uh, I think that's the key. So I hope this was interesting. I hope this was valuable. We're talking a lot more about it. We have a few posts around this topic. We also are talking about it on our social channels. And I think you're going to see that more and more people are really talking about that. I've come across quite a few different marketing influencers or just people in the industry who are also talking about this and seeing the value. So, I think keep in mind, this isn't something that happens overnight, but start to really think about the strategy you want and how you really want employees to engage on social media. The more value you give and you can show them that they're going to benefit, your company's going to benefit, and that you don't make your content strategy just all about your company and brand, you're going to reap the benefits and you're going to see results. If you have any questions about this topic or looking to talk to us more about it, you can hit me up anytime on LinkedIn. I'm very active there. You can reach out to our company. You could check out customers that are doing these things. But we're really excited about the direction of this, and we think more people are awakening to the value of social media at work and how it benefits not only the individual employee, but the company as a whole. But thanks for listening, everybody. Till next time, we'll talk soon.
Thanks for listening. We'll be back next week with more engagement insights. Want to know how EveryoneSocial can provide you with the tools needed to keep everyone at your company connected, informed, creating, and sharing? Visit EveryoneSocial.com to learn more.